think flexibility is really, really important in a really volatile environment. So this was an opportunity where, we knew we needed a technology leader. Steve is now part of the organization as a permanent fixture and an FCP Euro advisor to me. So Steve never left. We converted Steve to an advisor, a long-term advisor. FCP Euro is an online direct-to-consumer retailer of European automotive parts. The company started in the late 80s, 1986, as a small brick-and-mortar store. My best friend and I took it online around 2000. And over the last 25 years, we've grown it to approximately a $300 million online retailer in the United States. Fast growing, and we sell replacement European parts to do-it-yourself consumers that own vehicles across the spectrum of Mercedes, Audi, Volkswagen, Volvo, BMW, Porsche, Saab. Yes, our recruiting abilities to date and so far have been really working our own LinkedIn networks. We're fortunate that FCP Euro has a strong brand, so we do attract a lot of folks that want to work with us. But primarily, if we're looking for a leadership role, we'll try to work our own networks. We've got our own internal career site that's linked to an ATS. We've used some recruiters in the past to help us place some talent, but it's really a combination. Depends on the complexity of the job and the time that we have available to go and source and recruit, because it does take quite a bit of time. Finding talent, talking to people, getting to know them, understanding the culture fit, evaluating them. It is a massive amount of time and effort, and mistakes are costly. You don't always get it right, especially when you're doing permanent hires. And to top it off, at the leadership level, you really can't get those decisions wrong, because the whole organization looks at the decisions at the top and wants to make sure that they can have confidence in the leadership on how they build the team. Our head of customer experience, Alejandro, he had worked with Fractional before, and Alejandro knew that we were looking to explore some opportunities with the chief technology officer, a fractional technology leader. So Alejandro recommended Fractional to us. And, we really hadn't considered a fractional leadership role or fractional in general. So this was our first time of exploring and working with a fraction, someone with a fractional capacity. I think that the last couple of years, you have COVID, you have all the macroeconomic headwinds. I think flexibility is really, really important in a really volatile environment. So this was an opportunity where, we knew we needed a technology leader. It's a big investment. We didn't know if we were quite ready for it. So when we heard of the opportunity to test out Fractional, we kind of thought it was the best of both worlds. We can start to talk to candidates that had technology leadership perspective and experience. We weren't fully committed to a full-time role and all the costs and the cost burden that comes with that. So we thought that Fractional was a good way to test and learn without the full commitment. We knew that we needed a technology leader. The business was getting to a certain size that and kind of curve on the maturity curve that I need to build out my senior leadership team, and technology was a missing piece. But again, we also knew that it's a big hire and we didn't want to get it wrong, and it comes with a lot of costs. So our really challenge was we had a sizable hole in technology leadership. We wanted some flexibility. We wanted speed to market. We wanted to be able to test and learn. We wanted to minimize our permanent fixed cost until we knew we were certain we had the right leader there. So from a fractional perspective, it hit all the marks for us as far as where we were and what we needed. The recruiting process was definitely more seamless than I expected. So, traditional recruiters, often they're sending over a large volume of candidates, casting a wide net. So I was a little skeptical that the same would happen with Fractional, but Andrew and Jonathan took the time to find out my needs. I think it's super helpful that they have a really strong understanding, both as operators, for what the business actually needs from a technology perspective. And they listened, they understood what the scope and the deliverables were. They put approximately 24 candidates in front of me over probably a month or two time period. Every one of those candidates I thought was well vetted, well selected. All of them essentially met the mark at some level, and the flow matched what we were looking for. So they essentially did all the heavy lifting on the interview side, or in the recruiting side. They set up the interview process for me, all the meetings. It was kind of a real-time feedback right after I was finished with the candidate. We debrief, and every time we debrief, they adjust their strategy based on my feedback. And for me, it was easy. They gave me great candidates. They adjusted based on my feedback, and I really couldn't have asked for anything more, given everybody is pressed for time, and especially where I sit in the organization, I don't have a lot of time to pour into this as I'm running the business. It was a refreshing process, and I thought it was super high quality. He's just a fantastic human, incredible technology background, been there, done there, very, very successful, super humble. He's, his experience and skills were very, very tightly aligned to not only where FCP Euro is today, but where it's going over the next 10 years. And he was just one of those people that you talk to them, has great energy, great perspective, knows all the cautionary tales, and it was just very, very natural. So he was a absolute superstar. Well, Steve is still here. So Steve is now part of the organization as a permanent fixture and an FCP Euro advisor to me. So Steve never left. We converted Steve to an advisor, a long-term advisor. The first 6 months, Steve was really tasked with come in, assess the technology organization, current state, future state, the gaps, the org charts, the SDLC process. He looked across data engineering, software engineering, DevOps, IT, infrastructure and systems. And after that 6 months, he came out with what I would call a white paper, but it was a transformation plan on how to make a sizable investment into technology to really transform it and take it to where it needed to be for the future state. So he delivered a phenomenal white paper. Based on that white paper, he helped us identify and source a full-time CTO, as well as a head of IT infrastructure, a head of security, a few other key technology roles. So we have essentially, with the help of Steve, coming in fractionally, he helped us build the org, helped us design the org. But we've transformed the technology function at FCP Euro. And now I've got Steve as a long-term advisor for the business. Couldn't have worked out any better. Go fractional again. If there's a role that we know that we need, but we don't have experience with that specific role in our organization, I think that a fractional or go fractional is a great way to bring in a subject matter expert, get to know the type of, what these subject matter experts do for a kind of a short period of time to really help inform what that function could look like. We've got a hypothesis that we think that this is going to be a capability we need, but we don't have any expert in this. Bringing somebody on a short-term basis that has that experience that can help shape the perspective. So now we have a much more informed view of what we want to build and what that org looks like. And if that fractional person decides to come full-time, great. Fantastic. If that fractional person, we go to a full-time, but we have more information on what we're trying to design and build from an organizational perspective, great as well. So it really, you can't lose. You either get the learnings from the subject matter expert, or you get the design, the full-time capability. Again, it comes back to like ton of flexibility, much faster speed of market, conservation of time and resources. So we're not spending as much on recruiting and sourcing, and then just great quality of candidates and getting to your inbox much quicker. We reached out to Go Fractional, and we said, hey, we're looking for this customer service role, and we're open to both fractional and permanent. So when you're talking to candidates, please, if you're open to that, please let the candidate know. And certainly Go Fractional was open to that. And as we started talking to candidates, kind of similar process that we went with our fractional CTO, they gave us a large selection of really high quality candidates, and we were lucky to find a candidate that was interested in being full time. So just kind of worked out well. We had alignment up front with Go Fractional that a direct permanent hire was available, and they were able to set up a process and a pool of candidates that gave us that option.